All right. Well, great to see you on here. Thank you for your interest in the fascinating career areas of media content production and public event technical support. I wanted to take a few moments here and introduce you to an exciting new program that we have here at Sierra Community College. It is a Certificate of Achievement in Media Content and Public Event Production. Let me get right into some of the basics here. This certificate program is a fast-track 2-semester program, 28 units, and you're through it. You're done. That's 9 months, 2 semesters. The program includes interdisciplinary training. You can gain marketable skill sets, and it's designed to get you out there and get you hired quick. That's what we're shooting for. You will train to work with multiple clients in a really wide variety of exciting production settings, and that's our goal. Is again to train people that are capable of taking on a really wide breadth of events and media production scenarios. Really training people to prosper in today's gig economy. Everybody keeps overusing, I think, the term gig economy, but maybe they're not overusing it because that's really the reality of work so often these days. Becoming an entrepreneur, and a lot of people say gig economy, they think just 1099 workers, but that's so many of us. It's not just Uber drivers and DoorDash delivering people. It's a whole bunch of different fields, and it certainly includes the media content creation and public event technical support industries. That's for sure. Our industries, we invented the word gig, so there's something to be said for that. The program content. What we've done is it is truly an interdisciplinary program. We've combined elements of commercial music, technical theater, mechatronics, and business entrepreneurship. And that actually can springboard you off into other areas, but this is the core of the program. So commercial music, technical theater, mechatronics, and business entrepreneurship. There's a lot to be said for being an entrepreneur. It is really a neat scenario of gainful employment, and I've enjoyed it for many, many years. Here are some of the courses. The training, the core training. We start off with a general introduction to media and public event production. There is training in stagecraft, stage lighting. There is an intro to entertainment industry course, so kind of an entertainment business course. There's a course in audio recording that gets you into some of the techniques of both in studio and on location pre and post production of audio. There's a live sound production course, and that's live sound for a multitude of different types of events, not just necessarily musical shows, but basically any show, any paying gig. So that's what we want to train you for. There's an audio, on the note of any paying gig, there's an audio-visual event production course. There's so much work in the audio-visual event support ends of our industry. There's a small business management course, and that's probably one of the most effective courses. I mean, it kind of ties a lot of it together because so much of this success in this industry is based on, one, being able to do a whole bunch of different things, not being and I hate to use a cliche term, but not being a one-trick pony, essentially, and then knowing how to run your own business. Do you know how to quote an event or to quote a recording or some type of media production project? Do you know how to create invoicing and bill your clients and get yourself paid? Do you know how to organize schedules and put together production schedules? It's a terrific course. There's a composition with electronic media course, and it's not just composition. We actually get into a lot of the details of how to do media, especially music production in the case of this course, with a digital audio workstation. So how do so many of us use a Mac or a PC or some type of personal computer as the centerpiece of our production environment now, and these are amazing systems, and with the appropriate software and the time and development of the commitment to develop the ability to use the technology, it literally replaces what used to be millions, multiple millions of dollars worth of production equipment out in the old hardware-based world. So that course is terrific. There's also a production crew. So you're going to learn stagecraft and you're going to learn stage crew work. And so that develops a really wide breadth of skill sets. There are some advisory courses that you can add on if you care to. They're highly recommended, but they're not necessary for the certificate itself. There's mechatronics, there's fundamentals of electronics. There's a music fundamentals course, a beginning piano course if you want to take your composition with electronic media further, developing some very basic piano skills and some understanding of how music works in terms of theory and developing the ear to really kind of springboard your composition efforts. And then there's a second level production crew course where they get a little bit more advanced in theatrical production. The required units, the total is only 28. The advisory units, there's 12. We're probably going to add additional advisory units in some other areas soon, but we'll keep you posted on that. Where are some of the employment possibilities? Where are some of the places you might be able to get a gig, or I should say one of many gigs? Obviously, there's media content production, and that's not just music recording or music production. There are so many different areas. There's audio for video. There's audio for video games. There is audio for radio and television spots. There's voiceover work. There's so many different types of production that can be done. And each one that you learn, each one that you develop some skill sets in, it's another income stream. So really, we're shooting for multifaceted scenarios of gainful employment. That's what we're preparing you for. And that's what is so amazing about this new program. Sound design and reinforcement. I love this picture. It's a little bit, well, I'm going to tell you this right now. Your first gig is probably not going to be a Hollywood Bowl engagement. I mean, I personally started off, my first events that I did sound reinforcement at, they were literally 4 to 6 to 8 input shows, mixing live sound for punk bands at little rock clubs and stuff. But every gig that you do introduces you to more people in the industry. And so the gig you're at gets you access to the booking for the next gig you're going to do. And it snowballs over time. So if you stay in it and you keep working and you keep doing more events, it does snowball. And so your gig gets you your next 3 gigs, and that 3 gigs gets you another 9 gigs. And that's kind of how it works. It snowballs. But you won't start off probably at a big giant venue unless you get on, for instance, with overhire with our local union or one of the local regional sound companies, and where you'll start off, honestly, you'll start off as a grunt, and that's fine. It's still paying work, and it's usually pretty good paying work. But just understand that you're probably not going to be mixing front of house at the arena. Your first couple of weeks, you're probably going to be wrapping 2,000 feet of 4-aught power feeder cable in the back of somebody's shop, and the cable just came back from a rodeo, and it's filthy. Again, it's still producing a paycheck, and it's still getting you access to the next job and the next job and the next job. Theatrical production. There are so many moving parts to a theatrical production, probably more so than musical theater, for instance, probably more so than anything I've ever seen. You will start off typically in community theater. You may even intern. That usually can turn into some paid events. There are so many jobs. There's so many moving parts to a theatrical production, and so many with every moving part, there usually is somebody who needs to be hired to move that part. So, and we'll talk about that a little more in a second here. Related fields. It's not just, production for music and production for theater. There are so many different events. I will be honest with you, AV work. AV work, sometimes some AV events are the most boring things that I have ever done. But if I'm backstage at the Philharmonic or the opera and we're recording and 2,500 people go to their feet at the big finale and there's 150 performers on stage and it's just this unbelievable, I'm watching the waveforms go across my screen. That's terrific. It's fun. It's glamorous. Absolutely love it. But then I go and I work one of these events where it's one mic on a podium in a room full of like podiatrists at the Holiday Inn. And my biggest challenge is staying awake. But here's the cool thing. At this AV event, we're renting them the sound, and the sound's probably one mic, maybe two mics. We're renting them the video, the screens. We may even be doing the draped curtains behind the stage. We're bringing them probably, versus the massive system that I bring to record the Philharmonic, or if I'm out doing a live show and we're you walk 120 feet back from the stage and you feel the drums in the ground. And we built that. Oh, it's great. It's glamorous. It's fun. But an event like this, an AV event, we're usually bringing between 5 to 10, at the most maybe 15% of the dollar value of equipment that we would bring to one of those other big glamorous gigs. And we're making the same, if not more money. So yes, sometimes the biggest challenge is staying awake through the whole thing while you're watching one slideshow after another. And sometimes you're literally turning up and down one knob for 6 or 8 hours. But when you're in and you're out, you didn't grind up a bunch of your very expensive equipment. All the really pricey microphones and preamps and things are still back in the shop. And you're in and out in one day with a check for $4,000 or $5,000. It makes it much more comfortable to do these events. So AV work is, and just any kind of public event technical support, sometimes it's just one mic on a podium. And there's money to be made, for sure. Of course, commercial audio production facilities. And I look at this picture, oh, it's just so beautiful. Look at that. A big, glamorous, what is that, 128 input console? That thing's huge. The console is bigger than the Cadillac. All that outboard gear, all the signal processing devices, the patch bays. It looks like there's a full grand piano out there on the other side of the glass. That's gorgeous. That is really not today's production world. Those facilities still do exist. There are not many of them left, but there are some. Here's where you actually make your record. That's the reality of it. The bad news is that this is way more glamorous. This looks cooler. It's great. But the good news is this is all you had to pay for, and you still made a record that sounded about the same. Bottom line is, rent this facility for 2 hours, film your video, and you don't have to let anybody know that you did your record, and I use the term because I'm older, but you actually produced a terrific record on a home or project studio, still a for-profit facility. Bottom line is that in today's industry, people are pulling Grammy nominations out of converted walk-in closets in small apartments. You can make a record on a tablet now. It's amazing. What used to be literally millions of dollars worth of production equipment can be had in virtual form on a Mac or a PC. I mean, even laptops and tablets, people are making incredible media content on these days. And the computers are only going to get more powerful and more affordable, and the software is just going to continue to be more fabulous than the last version. It just continues to improve, and it continues to become more affordable. So we're really in a beautiful area of production. But just understand this. So it's not as glamorous as it used to look, but you're getting the same results, and you're not putting in as much money to do it. You still do have to learn the skills, and we try to get you out of the gate with that in this program. So. Some other stuff, other types of work. Where is the work? Audio for video production facilities. That can be, there's so many different styles of production. There can be audio for radio spots, voiceover work, surveillance and documentation recording. Anytime you hear somebody, or you call and somebody says, this phone call might be monitored for training and quality assurance. Somebody has to capture that recording. Somebody has to catalog it and archive it and make sure that their crew knows where to pull it back up when they actually do need it. And that's a paid gig, and it's usually a pretty good paid gig. So documentation recording, surveillance recording for security. That's also another area. So anytime something is being captured, there's some work there. So that's for sure. Facilities specializing in audio restoration, audio archiving, forensic audio analysis, media distribution, duplication, replication. Even though duplication and replication in a lot of cases, the internet is being used for a lot of distribution, but there is still a demand for hard copies. Archiving and restoration, there is some really good paying work in that. I remember one time my small business, we were hired to clean up a bunch of police interview tapes for a law firm right here in town, and They were 90-minute tapes, and we had to caption. We had to import them into a digital audio workstation, a computer-based editing and production system, and we had to import the content in real time. And it was this giant shoebox full of 90-minute tapes. And at about, I think it was about $225 an hour, we imported and processed and got some of the hiss out of the material and got it clean enough to where the stenographers were able to type the content up and sign off on it, saying that it was in fact intelligible enough and it was worthy of being used as evidence and submitted as evidence. But that was a really good paying gig, and that was just one. Forensic audio analysis, you know, you have a 911 tape or something and you have to try to clean it and scrub it and you know, get the background noise suppressed enough to where it may not sound pretty, but you can actually hear what the words were. There's some good money in that type of area. And this is pretty much anybody with a pulse and some skill and a computer-aided digital audio workstation can do this kind of stuff. It's the same thing in some cases for video as well. Live music performance venues. Again, you're going to start off small, but you can also, it doesn't take long typically if you're in a larger town like this. It is very common that you can get on with some of the bigger venues. You'll start off as a grunt. Don't get me wrong, you'll probably start off loading trucks and wrapping cable. But again, every gig that you do has the potential to expose you to the next employer. So this gig gets you the next 3 other gigs. I was just talking about that. If you look at a live performance venue, you see you might see 4 or 5 people on stage in some cases, maybe even less. But you know, there's still a larger venue. There may be 150 or 160 people that are involved in actually making all the moving parts work, and that's going to be again set design, set building, staging. Lighting, sound, so sound design, board operation, lighting design, light board operation, follow spots, you know, some of the infrastructure, the electrical, obviously load in and load out crew. I mean, there can be, on a larger production, just for one show, there can be a crew of 200 people there sometimes. So it's really amazing how much work there is at live music performance venues. Also theatrical performance venues. Pretty much the same thing, but with even more moving parts. Set design and set building, that's huge. I mean, you start with a blank stage, you know, a bare stage, and you're building sets and you're designing. There is areas in putting in the infrastructure for electrical, for lighting, for sound, of course, all to be run on cue. All the way, and in a lot of cases, you're at the design stage. If you're working in a design job, whether it be sound or lighting or what have you, you're probably there on the clock all the way from the first read-through, or very close to on the way from the first read-through the script, and you're adapting your resources to the show, and you're building a part of the show. And there's just so much, so many billable hours that are available for doing that kind of work. So probably more moving parts in a theatrical production, especially like a musical theater production, than almost anything I've ever seen. Sports and multi-use venues, for sure, absolutely. As a matter of fact, if you look at that left hand down in that right picture, or that picture in the right corner there, that's a former student of ours, and he's doing sound for your Sacramento Kings. He's done quite well. He has a small sound company here in town. He does install work. He does small to medium-sized venue sound reinforcement. I believe they still do all the concert in the park events down at Cesar Chavez Park down in downtown Sacramento. Hotels, casinos, cruise ships, houses of worship, anywhere where something needs to be lit up, built, electrified, made loud, captured on location in terms of media, you know, audio and video content capture. There are so many different places where they need people, so they need personnel for these jobs. Military and law enforcement organizations, you know, anytime something has to be made loud for public address, this thing in the bottom right, I hope I'm never on the business end of one of those. It's a sound cannon. I guess it fires high frequency noise, and I guess it's very debilitating. But I mean, that is another type of device that would be used with the type of skills you'd build in this type of program. So, but PA work, and there are so many different areas where there's work. So, pro audio and video rental and sales firms. Every time the gear changes hands, anytime the gear changes hands, there's money to be made, and that is at the retail. Usually start off in music retail. You can work your way to a factory rep job, the people who sell the gear from the, who supply the retailers from the factory. Audio and video rental. My little company, we provide audio video rentals here in town, and it can be anything from you need one wireless microphone and you come to our shop and pick it up and then bring it back, to you need a full system and you need event staff to bring it in, set it up, run it, tear it down, make it go away, and then send you a bill. So there's good money to be made whenever the equipment changes hands. Audio and video systems design and integration. That is a terrific area. So boardrooms, projection systems, presentation technology, that has come so far in recent years. Anytime where you need audio in a public building, hotels, shopping malls, supermarkets, airports. If you look at that little round speaker kind of in the middle, those loudspeakers are, in some cases, legally have to be in certain public venues. Not just to play background or elevator music for people, but to make it possible to effectively evacuate the building in the event of an emergency. So somebody can go to a central command position and get on one microphone and tell people to calmly evacuate the building. It would be impossible to do that effectively without that sound system. And in a lot of cases, those little, we call them pie pan speakers, the little round speakers, the less expensive of those can be bought on wholesale for, I've seen them for $19 or $20. The nice ones are maybe $70 or $80. But if you're putting them in for $200 or $300 a piece with the labor, and somebody took your bid or your quote, and you got a contract to do the whole new wing of a hotel or a hospital or an airport, there's some real money to be made in systems design and integration, that's for sure. Some of the professional organizations our students can get involved with, there's ASCAP, BMI, USITT, Audio Engineering Society, of course, the Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences, of course, the local stagehands union. They have a very strong chapter here in town, the Local 50. They're a terrific way to get into the industry. Yes, you'll start off, it's grunt work initially. You'll probably do a lot of load in, load out, wrapping cables, help with this, move that. But there's actually, even at the entry level, there's some good money to be made with that organization. They're terrific. And they're probably, I'd say, the top of the heap as far as a crew of people that have, really well-developed and a wide breadth of skill sets. So. What are some of the factors shaping today's industry? First of all, the emergence of the gig economy, and I've talked about the gig economy, and I can't state this clearly enough. These are not, the scenarios of gainful employment in our industry are not the traditional ones like you see in, when they look at old styles of like gathering labor market data. For instance, they're looking typically at scenarios of one employer, 40-hour-a-week type employment scenarios, and that doesn't happen as much. Again, our industry has addressed the gig economy. Our industry invented the word gig, honestly. So this program really addresses that. What's happening is the gig economy is becoming more common. The traditional 40-hour week for one employer, that's kind of going away in a lot of industries. Decreasing demand for specialization. It is such a cliche term, but I hate to use it, but you don't want to be a one-trick pony these days. You don't want to over-specialize. If you have a wider breadth of skill sets, you're going to be effectively addressing the demand of today's industry, and especially in the areas of today's business world, and especially in the areas of the career areas of media content production and public event technical support. Let's look at a couple of quick workforce profiles. Michael Moreau. This was before this program even launched, and he was kind of an inspirator for a lot of our putting together this terrific program. He was a Sierra College student in commercial music, technical theater, business, and mechatronics. Some of the skills that he has developed: general AV tech. He's worked a lot of AV events and other events for my little business and with other colleagues of mine here in town. He's an on-location and in-studio recording engineer, very competent at it. He's a sound designer does a lot of musical theater. He's a very competent front-of-house and monitor engineer. He does lighting design, lighting operation, lighting systems operation. He's a good camera op. He does rigging. He does carpentry. He does electrical. He's an IATSE stagehand here in town with the local 50. He advanced to journeyman status in 2018, and here's the big one. So many people, our industry has such a, especially the stagehand end of it, has such a weird image problem. There's this image of the dirty stagehand. This guy was a homeowner at 25 years old. And it was because he just did he learned a wide breadth of skill sets, and he bought his first home at 25. Let's look at one more. Actually, let's look at this. Here is a 2-week snapshot. I'll let you pause this and look at this, but these are some different, this was just a 2-week snapshot. I basically just took him out to lunch, and we sat and said, well, so what did you do this last week? And he looked at his calendar on his phone, and so he's at the Golden One Center doing a professional wrestling gig. What else? He's at a production meeting for a musical theater event that he's working. He did a couple of doctors' meetings as an AV tech for me. Then he's at the Memorial Auditorium for a couple of days for the California Medical Association. He's at Cal Expo for an auto show. He's back at the Golden One Center for a show for Gwen Stefani. And then he's back at our theater. It looks like at Sierra College, where he's doing sound design for a production of Anything Goes. It's a musical. And then he's back at the auto show to do general support and strike. So some of the different duties: sound designer, AV technician, lightboard operator, general load in and load out. Again, work. It's all different work. If you look at some of the different pay rates, 10 hours at $23 an hour, 8 hours contract, 4 at 25, 4 at 30, 8 at 36, 10 at 35, 4 at 44 hours. Now, understand that is... a lot of those hours are after 10 p.m. and before, I think, 7 or 8 a.m. And in that case, so a lot of those hours, he's getting overtime. They're putting him on time and a half. They're putting him on double time. I've seen them even go triple time. And in a couple cases, even quad time. So some of those dollar per hour rates that you see, in reality, they end up being over $100 an hour. So there's some serious money to be made. Let's take a look at one more. This is Stephen Simpson. He's a former ARC, our sister district up the road, former ARC commercial music student. He's also he's worked some musical theater events. He's worked a lot of AV events. And he went right in kind of to he got involved in the IATSE Stagehand Union. And he's a full card journeyman with them as well. He does a lot of general event support. He can do electrical. He can do carpentry. He is a very competent stagehand. He does rigging. He's one of the better rigging people in town. There's a picture of he sent me a picture there of, he's up in the Golden One Center, and it looks like he's about 120, 130 feet up above the basketball court up there in the catwalks. He also runs a mobile DJ service. Same thing. I did a 2-week profile on him, and you can see some of the there's the event. Sometimes it's even more than one event in a day. You might be doing something. You might be setting breakout rooms for an AV event in the morning, and then running a camera in the afternoon, and then striking a rock show in the evening. So it's a very exciting career. You're never doing the same thing for a long period of time, and it's neat. It's a multifaceted. And of course, in a lot of those hour rates, those are overtime. So some of those hour rates are over $100 an hour. So it is a multifaceted scenario of gainful employment. I've had some students come to me, or prospective students come to me in the past and say, wow, the entertainment industry, is it going to be secure? I'm really worried about, not having a regular job and doing all this gig work. Well, you think about it this way. I mean, if you have one job and you lose your job, you just lost all your income. If I lose a client, and I've been in this business about a quarter century, if I lose a client, I never want to lose a client. I hate to lose a client. It's horrible. But if I lose a client and I have 40 other clients, I'm still okay. In so many ways, this business is more secure than the traditional one employer like corporate job. So anyway, I really appreciate you. If you've watched through this whole thing, I really am thankful for your interest in this incredible industry. I think this program is awesome, and I would love to see you involved. It is a really, really amazing industry. I've enjoyed being in it most of my professional life, and I'd love to have you join me and join my terrific colleagues out there in media, content production, and public event technical support. If you need any additional information, there is an email right down there. My Sierra College email. I usually check it 3 to 4, usually more like 4 to 5 times a week. You can also feel free to contact me directly by phone. That'll go directly to my main phone, and you can get a hold of me, and I'd love to get you some additional information. I have some handouts I can get you, some PDF files, and get you whatever questions you have. I'll gladly answer about this terrific program, and I hope to see you out here. Definitely.